Is it bad that for a short second I thought this was actually real? Like, him starting his own label out of the blue does not seem like that far-fetched of a thing that he would do. The only reason I can see him not doing this is because of his loyalty to TDE. Hello everybody, welcome back to the Music Gauntlet channel. I hope you all are having a wonderful day so far, and today we are going to talk about the latest album from Reason called New Beginnings. The California native is known mostly today as being yet another sharp lyricist under the TDE label, and it wasn't even that long ago that he earned this position, dropping several mixtapes ever since he started rapping in 2015. The last of which, There You Have It, actually being an official release under the Top Dog Entertainment label, being rebranded as an album despite being a mixtape just the previous year. Reason first came into the public eye upon appearing on the Black Panther soundtrack curated by Kendrick Lamar. Clearly he had some kind of connection to these guys, and that proved to be true just shortly after as he was recruited for the label's roster. But since his re-releasing of his album and signing under the TDE label, he hasn't really done much other than just drop some singles over the past couple years. That is until now. But let's talk about those singles, just as a precursor to the album. Now, only a few of the bulk of these singles actually made the album, and I'm actually a little upset Trapped In didn't make the album. Seriously? That was such a good single. Anyways, for the most part, these singles are pretty good. I would want to point out though that A, he does seem to be trying to go in a bit of a more mainstream style with some of these songs, and I don't think he's properly found his footing in that lane yet. It's still a little clunky when he tries to do it. And B, there are times when he can get really corny, not necessarily intending to either. But in either case, I was hoping none of those flaws showed up on this album. I was hoping that at the end of the day he would find that nice balance, even though this is his debut project, so I'm not expecting it to be flawless. But from what I was hearing on There You Have It, was he gonna be able to find the balance between conscious rap and some fun, harder bangers? Well, ladies and gentlemen, while he is able to find this balance, it comes at the cost of having the best and worst of both scenarios. And by that I mean there are some good songs on this project, but then there are also ones that heavily weigh down this project as well. My point can be made perfect with the opening couple tracks of this project. Something More starts off the project pretty well with its airy and twinkling production and just giving Reason the room to vent about his life, something like a Drake 6 p.m. in New York kind of thing. I like these couple of lines where he's talking about this girl that he was with that's resenting him because he's spending so much time in his rap career, but if he didn't do anything at all for a job and was broke, she would have hated him even more. It shows the dichotomy of putting in a lot of hard work isn't always just gonna pay off. There's gonna be some consequences along the road as well. But okay, alright, good enough start to this project. I like the Bed Bath & Beyond punchline in there. That was pretty well done. Okay, good opener. Where do you go from here? Stories I Forgot. Probably one of the worst songs on this entire project. What is this man doing with his voice? Oh my god, it was not very good. He sounds like he's trying to do that Kendrick impression when he acts all shrill and frantic, but he just sounds like he's hitting a growth spurt every single bar he says. And then he literally goes from trying to copy Kendrick Lamar in the first half of the song to literally trying to copy J-Rock in the second part of the song. Like, listen to Vice City again, listen to J-Rock's charisma on the track with the whole 2030 type attitude, and then listen to this track and tell me he is not trying to be an imposter of that. Which is totally fine if you want to do that, but if you're gonna do it, at least make it sound good, in which here he does not. It makes this song damn near unlistenable. The beat is even trying way too hard to be grimy, which is evident with the woman soundbite screams that would turn up on an Eminem LP, but like his way back in the day LPs. You have this really dark and menacing beat, and then you have Reason doing these really goofy vocal inflections, making for two elements that do not go together. You can make the argument on the following track that he's trying to be like ScHoolboy on pop shit, but he owns that style enough where he makes it sound like it's coming out of his pocket as opposed to doing his best impression. He and ScHoolboy match the mesmerizing eerie production, and I really like the tire screeching included on this track, and well, it kind of just adds to the creepy feeling. It reminds me a lot of Big Sean's Wolves, but it almost feels like your life is in more peril in this moment. ScHoolboy easily kills it though. I mean, that whole production was just a layup for him. I never heard Showstop as a single. I thought maybe I heard a little bit of it before, but I really don't remember. Hearing it here, I thought it was okay the first time, but by the third time I was listening to this album to review it, I was so sick of hearing that song. Just in the context of this album, if I heard this song as a single beforehand, I probably would have been sick of it way ahead of time. It just sounds so lazy. The beat sounds like it's yet another part of that X 5200 type style of beats. And on top of that, Reason just doesn't sound good bragging. He's not the kind of rapper that he can brag in an interesting way, which sounds not great here, but then on the next track, Favorite Narwhal, it shows really evidently. There's nothing wrong with making a brag track, but when he's bragging about stuff, he doesn't do it in an interesting way, so it just sounds like he's acting like a bit of a douche and annoying. It's as if all he thinks he needs to be is confident on the mic for people to vibe with what he's saying, when the fact of the matter is, his lyrics are the biggest turnoff for me because they allude to a rapper being at the top of his craft when in reality they're just kinda subpar. That is on this track anyways. The album starts to get back on track with the song I Can Make It. Reason has some decent delivery on this cut, and I like his closing closing punchline about how he built it from the ashes, which is ironic because he earned it. Get it? But topically, he's just covering what he talked about in the opening track for this album. And I would argue Rhapsody outshined him a little bit on this as well, which he had that line about I can make you hate the moth but love the centipede. Ooh, damn Rhapsody. Fall was actually the track that made me give back my full attention to Reason. It has this simple drum beat, but it's attached with these really sweet piano keys and also what sounds like some sonar underwater effect with the background. He talks about how female rappers are expected a lot more to show their bodies and can't be thought of as conscious rappers per se, and he talks from the male perspective about how you're supposed to have this macho bad boy attitude, but before you know it, you just are surrounded by yes men. A lot of people apparently took issue with the fact that he called out Mac Miller here, but I don't see a problem with this whatsoever. I actually think it's a really good line. He's not making light of Mac Miller's drug overdose as much as he is telling people to just take heed from it and learn from Mac Miller's mistakes. He carries this momentum into the next track, Slow Down, actually getting pretty dang personal with the first verse, talking about an abortion that he had to go through with a girl he was dating at the time. Not a big fan at the end when he says, maybe I feel guilty about it. I feel like despite your beliefs on abortion that you should probably at least feel somewhat guilty about it, like to a certain extent, just a weensy little bit. And then in a second verse talking about his cousin who he exposed on Better Days for being addicted to drugs and that gang life. It's essentially a song about what the last verse on Better Days is about. Him not realizing how much he loved his cousin until he almost lost him in a car accident and being regretful for ever having that much hatred towards him. So the next track after this we get is Flick It Up, which I do enjoy. I think it's a really fun song. I like the energy and speedy flows Reason and Ab-Soul adapt, and I really love hearing Soul in general. I seriously need an album from him soon. It's been too long, man. But it's such a sudden shift in the record, going from something deep and personal to being like, alright, I'm done with that now, time to turn up, bro. Sauce is a fine enough track, but the beat is just way too skeletal to be interesting, and Vince Staples, yet it's another Rhapsody situation where he doesn't outshine Reason per se, but he's definitely the more evident personality. I do think Reason is able to hold his own though on the dusty boom bap beat of the song Extinct, going up against lyrical extraordinaires Isaiah Rashad and Jid. He comes through with his best punchlines on the whole entire project. Honestly, I was impressed by some of these, like the pulling the pen out just to blow up. Like, okay, all right, Reason, I see you. Jid obviously kills it. He's a rhyme scheme machine. He even harmonizes by the end of his verse because, of course, he did. And Isaiah did pretty well too, but he was probably the weakest link here. He wasn't having that many punchlines. The flow wasn't that interesting. He rode the beat well, but he didn't really do much to push himself ahead. I'm a little surprised. Overall, a good posse cut though. Closing out the record, we get West Side, which is kind of a cliche topic talking about him being the right person for another girl instead of a dude she's messing around with, but he sells it well, not giving any cringe punchlines and being straight to the point with his raspy voice, sounding like he really cares about the concept instead of being filler like other TDE moments. The track Gossip isn't all that bad. I like him addressing his instinctive distrust of his family. Despite having extremely close and supportive members around him, he still thinks to himself, which one of these people are just using me for my money and success, even if that's not really the case. But what is this chorus, dude? What is this chorus? Gossip, gossip, gossip. Dude, oh, he sounds like Schnitzel from Chowder.
Rada, 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 rada.
His first verse wasn't that great and kind of made me hate the hook even more, but then the second verse was actually decent, but that hook attached to it really drags it down. The album closes itself out with the track Windows Cry, which has a really nice dreamy backdrop, incorporating some faint strings and back vocals. This is also a moment where I think Reason shines the most bright with his lyrics. He paints the vivid picture of not necessarily being able to trust Top. He can trust him with his career, but if somebody pulled a gun on him and Top was present, would he actually have his back? Not that he wouldn't, but it's the paranoia of does he actually have his back, and am I losing the good friends that would do something like that for me? Just because I made it out of the hood doesn't mean I've escaped all hood things, as we've seen happen time and time again. It's a good closer to the record and gives you insight into the mind of an artist, especially one that's under so much pressure, not just from fans, but from his family as well. So overall, this project just came out to be pretty decent. It solidifies that Reason is more than a capable rapper, but it keeps running into walls when trying to decide how it wants to differentiate itself from the rest of the camp, making for this album not bad, but what you would see in the dictionary under the definition of mixed bag. He finds good conscious pockets like with Fall and Windows Cry, and he finds good banger pockets like with Pop Shit and Flick It Up. But for every quality track, there's another one that's less interesting and in the end somewhat forgettable. It definitely wasn't a waste of time, as I walked away from this having a handful of tracks I enjoyed, and I'll probably replay at some point. But I was really hoping this project as a whole was gonna be something that I would want to come back to. Instead, I can just pick out my favorite tracks and be done with it, unfortunately. I hope this was a learning experience for him and he can come through next time with an even more cohesive project. In that light, I could see this being a pretty good stepping stone. But until then, I'll just be playing back my favorite tracks and hope he kills it in the future projects. Now, this is the part of the video where I rank this album out of the rest of Reason's discography, and honestly, I think I still gotta stick with There You Have It being my favorite Reason project so far. I really like on that project how his hunger manifested into a cohesive narrative. And I'm honestly feeling like next I'll just go The Proof, and then the Free album, And then I'm gonna put New Beginnings. It's just ever so barely beats his first project. In the meantime, just showed a lot of room for growth, and you could tell Reason really just had not found his footing as an artist quite yet. And I think this album has some pretty good highs. It's just so unbalanced that it finds itself this low in his discography ranking. It's almost as if now that he has these professional resources, he has access to all these things that can make him an even better artist, he's somewhat choking under the pressure and not finding a good way to express himself, as opposed to when it was a lot more simple back in his mixtape days. For my top 5 songs from the project, I will have to go Pop Shit, because that ScHoolboy Q verse is so damn hard. And then I will go Fall, Flick It Up, Extinct, and Windows Cry. Thank you guys so much for watching all the way into the end. If you made it all the way into the end, I truly appreciate it. If you like this album more than I did, it's just my opinion, so let me know what you think. You can leave a comment in the comment section, or you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter, and we can discuss this album there. If you want to leave a like or subscribe, I would appreciate that too. And that's all I got for you guys. I'll see you in the next one.
They scream period with period blood all over their titties.